Marjorie Taylor Greene has done it again, embarrassed herself publicly for the world to see. And this one is better than most that we see, because a lot of times Marjorie Greene will be ranting about something and it's very aggravating and embarrassing for her, but no one checks her in the moment because it's in a setting where that doesn't make sense. In this setting, in the video I'm about to show you, she's actually having facts brought to her and being confronted with those facts. And so this was during a House Homeland Security Committee hearing, and the title of this hearing was Mostly Peaceful, Countering Left-Wing Organized Violence. And it was a Republican effort to focus on left-wing extremism to distract from the main problem we have statistically in this country, with politically motivated violence coming from the right wing, coming from right-wing ideologies. We'll get to the facts on that in just a little bit. But Amy Batalnik, who works for the nonpartisan organization Human Rights First, she was called by the Democrats as a witness and had an exchange with Marjorie Greene that I'll talk about kind of what it emphasizes, what it highlights after we take a look at some of this. So first, just to kind of warm you up, get you ready, this happened.
That while we're talking about white supremacy, Miss Batalnik, you were talking about white supremacy.
It's Batalnik.
Oh, I apologize, Batalnik. Miss Batalnik, while you were talking about white supremacist.
Okay, so that's irrelevant to the point that we're going to be talking about, but funny. And she is very mature for sure. But here's this. Oh, and context on this. Amy Batalnik, it kind of starts right after she says some important context. She says, all politically motivated murders in 2022 were right-wing extremists. Okay, so that's what you'll hear. Kind of, it cuts in mid-sentence on that.
Was committed by a right-wing extremist.
Every single murder in America was committed by a right-wing extremist?
Every single politically motivated murder was committed by a right-wing extremist.
Are you sure about that?
I am.
Are you aware that the Tennessee shooter just recently identified as a man and she was a biological woman? Was she a right-wing extremist as well?
General Lady's time has expired. I'll allow the witness to answer the question.
So that was a shooting that happened in 2023. There is no evidence as to what ideology motivated that shooting. And what we do know is that cisgender males are responsible for the vast majority of mass shootings in this country.
I'm sorry, I don't know what a cisgender male is. There's only two genders. It's male and female. That would be that. So no one knows what a cisgender male is. It's a made up.
Unfortunately, the anti-trans invasion
from Georgia
language that you've been using
back. I recognize
Mr.
Strong for his 5 minutes of question.
Credit to Amy Batalnik there. My goodness. But I want to take this as an opportunity to learn. We're going to learn together. I'm going to illustrate a phenomenon here, okay? And we're going to use Marjorie Greene as the example for this, because she is, let me put it this way. If this phenomenon had a logo, Marjorie Greene would be the logo, right? She's the embodiment of this phenomenon. And what am I talking about? I've used this phrase before, but we're officially coining it today, okay? It has been coined. It is celebratory ignorance. And my definition for it is the celebration of one's own ignorance. Now, seems strange, right? Look, what are you talking about? Anti-intellectualism is kind of a part of this, but it's even beyond that. I'm being partially silly, but you'll actually notice this. And it's a level of pride in the fact that someone clearly and seems to even recognize in the cavalier nature of their message that they really don't know what they're talking about, and that makes it that much more exciting to them. They're proud of the fact that they don't know what they're talking about. Marjorie is a good example of that, right? She seems to become more pumped by, more ready to drop a mic about points she's making as they get further and further from accurate. So let's go through the clip. Okay. Amy Batalnik starts out by saying a fact. Contrary to what too many people believe, there still are facts in this world. And one of them is that all murders in 2022 that were politically motivated were right-wing extremists. And Marjorie Greene responds to that by saying, interesting. So all murders were right-wing extremists? Oh, but, beep, bop, boop. As I've said before, interesting point from the standpoint of wrong. That's where I put that, okay? Because the point that was made by Amy Batalnik had to do with politically motivated murders, not all murders. But we got that out of the way pretty quickly, and then Marjorie Greene moves on. And now she's ready to have her mic drop moment. And she says, oh, interesting. You're making a point about 2022 politically motivated murders. Well, I have an example for you of a murder that took place in 2023 that law enforcement hasn't identified a political motive for. And that's relevant to this conversation because crickets. Now, of course, she's trying to say it was left-wing extremism because it was a transgender person, but that portrays a misunderstanding of, and this is what makes her celebration of her own lack of knowledge here even more present, not understand the difference between ideology and identity, right? Because then, as Amy Batalnik went on to say, wait, if you're saying that, you do realize that the vast majority of murders are done by cisgender men. And then Marjorie Greene puts the cherry on top and says, well, I don't know what that means. Boom. I don't know what you're talking about, so get owned. And there it is. Now, on the facts, as the New York Times writes, over the past decade, the Anti-Defamation League has counted about 450 U.S. murders committed by political extremists. Of these 450 killings, right-wing extremists committed about 75%. This is over the last decade. Obviously, 2022, we just talked about the facts on. And you can see this visual here where it shows white supremacy, 55% of murders connected to political extremism. 14% anti-government, which is traditionally a right-wing ideology, and other right-wing is 6%. And then you have the others there. By the way, left-wing is at 4% over the decade. So all of their obsession over Antifa doesn't change the reality that if we want to talk about politically motivated violence, we can do that. I'm ready. Let's do it. But let's understand the facts. And usually when discussing a subject like this, you give more time and concern to the larger problem, which in this case is clearly right-wing extremism, undeniable.